How you doing? I'm Erik Audé. I wrote the book 3 Years in Pakistan, the Erik Audé story. If you haven't seen it on Locked Up Abroad or my documentary, 3 Years in Pakistan, you should check it out on Amazon. Also, I'm chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Erik Audé.
Hey, thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. So you have a wild story.
I mean, everyone's got something. Mine's just a little different than most, you know?
A little different. You've been on the verge of, I don't know many people that would go to a place that you went to.
Well, I mean, I'm what my family likes to call the worst case scenario, you know? So I'm the example for other people to, this is what will happen if you do it this way. I've made every mistake in life you can make, but the great thing about it is I've learned from them all. So if other people can learn from my mistakes, then they weren't mistakes done in vain, you know?
Yeah. So where were you born and raised?
I was born in LA at Cedar Sinai, just across the street from Beverly Hills. And I was raised there in the early years, but then I moved up to the Antelope Valley where I was there for my teen years. And then I immediately moved back down to LA for work and acting and stunts. That's something that I've always wanted to do my whole life. And I've been doing most of my life since I was 12.
So you were involved with movies before this whole situation happened.
Yeah, I was a working actor, stuntman. I was paying all my bills, just acting and doing stunts. I was making it happen. I was, you know, wasn't like I wasn't rich or anything, but I was able to, you know, date, have fun, go on vacations, and pay all my bills. I was living very comfortably.
So before this, do you get in any trouble?
I mean, as kid stuff, when I was a kid, I got arrested for stupid things. Like my cousins and I got arrested for egging cars when I was 13. One of the guys caught us and took us to the police station. You know, we deserved it. We got our asses beat. We absolutely deserved it. And then I got arrested when I was 15 after a football game because some douchebag was throwing rocks at our cheerleaders over near the snack bar. So I stepped in. He was 19. And we both got arrested. This is up in Bishop. I got arrested when I was I got arrested when I was 19 for possession of stolen property, which I was absolutely innocent of. A girl I was dating took her mom's friend's cell phone, ran up a bill. This is back in '99, so before there was like good cell phone plans. She ran up a $3,000 bill on her mom's friend's cell phone. And I would go down there and visit with her in the summers, and I had a very messy car. So she left her bag with all her like bikinis and clothes in the backseat of my car. And inside was also the cell phone that she was running up charges on her mom's friend. Because it was in my possession when I learned about it. Because she tried to not take the blame when her mom's friend came looking for it. She's like, I don't know, maybe Erik has it. And then when a detective contacted me, I thought nothing of it. He's like, there might be a bag in your car. Like, he knew specifics. He was like, there might be a bag in your car. Would you mind going look? And I go and I look. And inside, and he goes, is there a phone in there? I'm like, yeah, there's a phone. Boom, I just admitted to possession of stolen property. I was 19. I didn't think anything was wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. I had to get a lawyer. I had to fight it. It cost me $11,000 of money that, you know, I'd saved up all taken. And I was proven innocent because she came to court and says, oh, he didn't steal it. I gave it to him, which is the lie, too. She left it in the car, but she was, you know, that took off, I guess, whatever it was.
Culpability on her. She didn't want to take responsibility. Right?
It was messed up what happened. I was mad. And then I was like, I'm going to sue her and all this stuff. And my own mom was like, Erik, but she could have lied. And she was right. She could have lied because I was looking at like 1 to 3 years in jail for some bullshit cell phone that had a high phone bill on. Like, they were going to throw the book at me. And they kept trying to give me like deals, like pleading in and out. Just pay the fine. You get, you know, like probation. It'll just be a misdemeanor. And I'm like, I didn't do this. I'm going to fight this to the end. And because I was hard-headed and I didn't want to admit for something I didn't do, I was looking at 1 to 3 years in jail for a cell phone I never even knew about or used once. It was fucked up. So I got arrested for that, but I was declared innocent, beat the charges, and then I got arrested down in TJ with my friends. My friends, I mean, I've been in a lot of trouble, but for stupid things. One of my friends was hitting on this girl at the bar, and there was a sailor who was hitting on the same girl, and they started fighting. So me and my boys went to defend my friend, and him and his boys defended their friends. So we're fighting these sailors in this bar down at TJ. We all got arrested, and we ended up getting thrown in a little prison down there in TJ, where they had a tamale cart inside, and some guy you'd pay cigarettes to like cook the chickens for you, because they throw
Tijuana, right? You're in Tijuana?
Yeah,
Man.
we're in Tijuana, and they would throw all these chickens in their courtyard, and you had to like corral your own chickens, and then you paid the tamale guy cart a pack of cigarettes to pluck it and cook it for you. And it ended up being one of the funnest weekends I ever had, where me and these sailors who all got arrested, we all became buddies. It was, it's a fun experience.
And you were a stuntman too. That plays a major role in this story.
Well,
you were in shape.
I've always wanted to be a stuntman my whole life. All right, I didn't want to be an actor. Wanted to be a stuntman since I can remember. Since I was 4 years old, I wanted to be a stuntman. But it's harder to become a stuntman than it is to become an actor. I had to become an actor to become a stuntman, and so I would have to book an audition and book my own roles, and then just be adamant about doing all my own stunts. So I always got like bully or jock or very physical roles: football player, wrestler, hockey player. And when the action would happen and all the other actors came off the field or off the court, they'd be like, "Where's Audé?" And you're like, "He's still out there." And I'd be out there with the other stunt guys just going at it, because that's what I wanted to do. I was always very physical. My drug of choice in life was the gym. I would be at the gym just 2 to 3 hours, 5 days a week, and I would do my homework at the gym in between sets, because I lived in the Antelope Valley. I did not want to. I did not want to grow up I didn't want to live in the Antelope Valley. I hated it. The Antelope Valley sucks, right? And anyone who lives there now, they can pretend that it's amazing. It's not. The Antelope Valley is where you go if you have no dreams in life, or you're a sex offender, or you want to cook meth. That's what you do in the Antelope Valley. There is nothing great about the Antelope Valley whatsoever. It's a place you go for your dreams to die. And that the great thing about the Antelope Valley being so rough and awful and hot and just miserable is that it helps inspire you to get out of there. So I was at the gym every day. I wanted to be a stuntman. I wanted to be smart. I took my studies seriously, and I took my working out extremely seriously. And I wanted to get a full ride scholarship to go to to go to any kind of college. Unfortunately, I played for a very small school, and I was getting partial scholarships, but I played for a very small school that no one really ever took us seriously, even though I broke a record in California that still stands today for the most tackles by a defensive end. This was back in '96, a long time ago. But yeah. I had 147 tackles in 11 games. It's video game numbers. It'll never happen. And that was for a defensive end, a defensive lineman. I mean, if I was a strong safety, maybe. A linebacker, sure. But for a lineman, those are video game numbers. And so universities were interested in me. They wanted me to play, but no one was willing to give me a full ride scholarship. And I got into all the Ivy League schools that I applied to. I mean, I was recruited by Princeton, Cornell, Brown, but they didn't have any athletic scholarships. They had academic scholarships, but no athletic scholarships. And then when I would see that the cost to go to these schools were like almost $100,000. This is back in the '90s, so that was a ridiculous amount of money. I'm sure it's way more now today. And I was thinking, like, man, I'm already making $5K a week on these shows that I'm booking. Why would I want to pay $100,000 out of my pocket just to play football and get an education when I'm already making a good living doing what I'm doing? So I just focused on stunts and acting, and I started booking roles and co-stars, guest stars, reoccurring stunt work. And the phone was ringing. I was in the same room with some of the biggest talent in Hollywood, people that would go on to do big things. I was up for Not Another Teen Movie against Chris Evans. I was up for Kelso on the '70s show. I went to network for that. Ashton Kutcher got the role. I was up against Josh Hartnett for the Virgin Suicides. It came down to me and him for the Sofia Coppola movie. And I was up for Varsity Blues. I ended up doing stunts on Varsity Blues, but I was up for The Quarterback that went to James Vanderbeek. And I was also up for, I want to say Tweeter, who went to Scott Conn. And I was right there in the mix, and I was always very close for these big roles that could have been game changers. It came down to me and I want to say Howie Stevens, who got for the Reba, and he's a great guy, great actor. And I ended up getting the role of his best friend for a couple episodes, and then I ended up getting arrested in Pakistan for a crime I did not commit. And at the time that I got arrested, I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but you watched the show Locked Up Abroad last night. That's why you reached out to me, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Locked Up Abroad, whenever anyone asks me, like, what should they watch or read to know my story, I never, ever tell them to read Locked Up Abroad. And the reason is because Locked Up Abroad, they came after me after I got back from Pakistan for every year. They came back the first year, the second year. They wanted me to do the show, but the few episodes that I had watched, everyone on that show was guilty. You know, they were all knowing drug smugglers. They were all knowing criminals who just, you know, they were in another country's prison. I was 100% innocent. I never did drugs. I wasn't even a drinker. Like I said, the only things I did in life was working out, studying, hot girls with low self-esteem. Those were my vices in life.
Yeah.
And when I saw Locked Up Abroad and they came after me and they're like, we want you to be on the show. And I watched a few of the episodes. Like, they sent me a bunch of episodes even before the show even aired, like one episode. And I watched them, like, all these assholes are guilty. Why would I want to be on the show? They're like, well, so you can tell your story. And I was having a lot of meetings with all these production companies, Paramount Vantage, MTV. I was going to, like, you know, all these different studios to tell my story and, you know, to see who would want to make it. And the problem back in the day is they didn't want to tell my story because they didn't, you know, they didn't like that an American guy. It was like, you know, I got arrested right after 9/11. All right, a couple months right after 9/11, before, during, and after the Afghan and Iraqi war. And for whatever reason, like, people thought it was a great story and everything, but they were like, you know, it's not really capturing us. I was literally told by MTV that they wanted me to be a knowing drug smuggler, like a big guy in an enterprise, and then I get arrested and tell the story from that way. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Fuck that. And they offered me a lot of money to do that too, but I'm like, I was on death row for a crime I didn't commit. I was offered a deal, plead guilty, pay the judge off, and go home. And you guys think I'm going to sell out now for some money to tell everyone that I was guilty for a crime I didn't commit? I fuck off.
Yeah, they're torturing you, right?
Yeah, I was on death row and I still refused to plead guilty for a crime I didn't commit. Like, anyway, so Locked Up Abroad's like, we want you to do the show. I didn't want to do the show. 6 seasons go by and I start acting again and doing stunts, and I'm doing well. And they see an episode of the show, the event that I had done where I was a guest star on it. And I guess the producer saw that and they're like, you're actually good. What if we let you play yourself? And I was like, oh shit, okay. Because what better asshole to play this asshole than this asshole? And that's how I always looked at it. So I did the show Locked Up Abroad, played myself like a douchebag. And the problem with Locked Up Abroad is it's a very popular show. It's not just in America, it's worldwide. It's in every country and every language. They took a 13-hour rushed interview that I did and crammed it into 48 minutes. And they only took the exciting stuff out of there. They didn't explain how I was the way I was. They just made it look like I walked into the prison and just went to war with everyone. And
started beating everyone up, throwing them around.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's somewhat true, but there's way more to it than that. And unfortunately for me, the internet, you know, everyone on the internet thinks they're 7 feet tall. So I was getting emails from all over the world, people telling me I'm a liar, kill myself, they kick my ass. No one's ever said that shit to my face, though. In over 20 years of being out, I still have yet to have one person have the balls to come up to my face and call me a fucking liar and anything else. So I thought that would have happened many times, but it hasn't happened once. And I'm glad it hasn't, because, I mean, if I'm going back to jail, I'm going to make it worth it. That's all.
It sounds unbelievable. I could see where people would be like, he's full of shit, because it sounds unbelievable.
Oh no! When I would tell my, when I first got back, I came back with just the clothes on my back, and I had no way of, you know, making money, and I took like whatever job I can get. I mean, I would get some work, like some stunt work, some acting jobs, but I was starting from scratch. I had like producer friends of mine saying, "Hey, we're doing some reality shows. We're, you know, like trials." And they weren't like sold yet, but they were trying to like pitch them to the studios. And I would go down to Sony and be one of the contestants. And one of the shows was who's telling the truth. And there was like me and like 6 other people, and they would give everyone else like a scenario. Like, one was a doctor who accidentally lost their Rolex inside a patient. One was a lesbian or a girl who looked like a lesbian who got kicked out of the military for being a lesbian. This is back in 2005. And then one was like a teacher who got fired for sleeping with a student, and they had to like embellish these lies and keep them because they were just giving those lies. And whoever like is able to successfully convince the audience that it's them would win money. And if I'm able to convince the audience that I'm the one telling the truth, that I would like win the money. And it was like it was a pilot. No one was asking me any questions because all it said was I said like my thing was I was arrested in Pakistan for a crime I didn't commit, and I spent 3 years in jail in Pakistan. I was on death row. I was tortured for information I didn't have. And then they went on to everyone else, and everyone kept asking everyone else all these questions to punch holes in their stories and everything from the audience. And then they were able to all start punching holes in each other's questions. And no one was asking me any questions because they had already assumed that there's no way my story was real. And so they moved on to the other 5 people and it was hysterical. I'm like, there's no way for me to ever win this show because no one asked me any questions. Yeah. And like one person asked me one question just for the hell of it. They're like, all right, well, how much is $1 in Pakistan? I'm like, well, it's at the time it would fluctuate. It was about 60 rupees, but it usually goes down to 58 up to 62. So $1 was 60 rupees. 500 was just less than $10. And then someone's like, well, where is Pakistan located? I'm like, Pakistan's borders India, Northwest Frontier Province. You got China to the north. You got Iran and Iraq to the west. And then people started asking more questions, but no one still believed my story whatsoever. And I tell people, if it didn't happen to me, I wouldn't believe it either. It's one of those kind of stories.
Wait, the judge wanted $10 to let you go?
Where'd you get that from?
The rupees. 500 rupees. Didn't he want 500 rupees?
You said the judge, though.
Oh, it wasn't there a judge that was telling you plead guilty and pay me off? Wasn't there?
Yeah, but not for 500 rupees.
Oh, how much did he want?
The first judge wanted $125,000 for my acquittal.
Wow.
U.S., not rupees, U.S. And so all that's in the book. The good thing about it is I wrote a book. It's took me 2 years to write, 7 years to edit. It's called 3 Years in Pakistan, the Erik Audé story. And the reason I wrote this book is because every time I would get a ghostwriter, they would waste 3-4 months of my time, me telling my story. And then they couldn't get any, like they would try to take my story to publishing houses to try to get an advance to write it. And no one was giving advances. So they would lose interest and move on. And I did this several times. I'm thinking like 7-8 different ghostwriters. Finally, I just given up. I was like, I'm just moving on with my life. I'm acting, I'm stunting, I'm opening up restaurants, I'm playing poker for a living. And everyone kind of knew of my story, but no one knew of my story. Until one day I was doubling an actor named Craig Schaefer. He was the quarterback in the movie The Program. And we were having a dinner off on one of our off nights up in Utah, and he actually knew my story. He realized he knew me, but he didn't know why he knew me. He had watched the stupid episode of Locked Up Abroad, and so he was like asking me a bunch of questions. He's like, "When's that book coming out?" And I told him the problems I was having with finding a writer. He's like, "Why don't you write that book?" And him being adamant and kind of pushing me kind of gave me the fire to get the confidence to write my own book. And so I wrote a chapter. I emailed it to him. He's like, "This is great. Keep going." He kind of just supported me along the way as I wrote my own story. It was easier to tell my story to like I was telling it to him, but I was doing it all through emails and paper. And it took me 2 years of doing that. And thanks to him that I did it. But then it took me 7 years to edit it because I couldn't get an editor to edit it the way that I wanted it to be. When I tell stories, I go on tangents. I go on like side missions and everything. And some people are like, just get to the heart of the story. I'm like, it'll make sense in a second. Just let me tell my thing. It's just the way I am. I have to tell you a few different things before I get on track. And that's how my book is. And it's it's in my own words. It is literally my life story. It's my diary, and I put it out there, and anyone who's taken the time to read it and get past at least page 3 has actually seemed to like it.
Is it self-published? Self-published?
I self-published it. I put it on Amazon, and then I did the audiobook myself. The audiobook's everywhere. It's also under the same title, 3 Years in Pakistan. And the reason I did this is because no one else is willing to do it. Just like with Locked Up Abroad. Locked Up Abroad dropped the ball so bad and put me in such a target from people around the world to just abuse me, talk shit, that I had to go and do my own documentary the way that I felt that it needed to be told. because of how bad Locked Up Abroad told my story and how much stuff they left out, I went and did my own documentary, which is free on Amazon Prime. It's on YouTube. It's also called 3 Years in Pakistan, the Erik Audé story. And it's in my own words. It's the way that I felt that it told the story better. And so anyone who actually hated me from Locked Up Abroad but took the time to watch 3 Years in Pakistan did a 180. Like, I had people who were, calling me a liar and a piece of shit and a little bitch, who actually came back to me after watching my documentary and going, look, it makes so much more sense now. I'm sorry. And I've yet to have anyone go out of the way to talk shit or hate on me who's watched 3 Years in Pakistan. What happened to me could have happened to anyone. For me, it was a free trip. It was an opportunity to travel the world and get paid a little bit of money. I had no idea I was being used as a drug smuggler. And most times people think that possession is 10/10 of the law. They think that if you're doing it, if you're arrested for narcotics, then you must be involved. A lot of the times people are involved. Most of the times people are involved, but there are so many times that people are being arrested for drug smuggling or narcotics related, and they have no idea. And it's very simple. By keeping you in the dark, they don't have to pay you what you're worth. Also, they figure you won't draw suspicion to yourself because you don't know you're being used to carry anything illegal. So they'll give you a free trip under the guise of, you're working for a company, you're bringing back rugs, you're bringing back clothing, you're bringing back high-end value leather goods, which is what it was in my scenario.
How did you meet this guy? Where did you meet this guy, and how long did you know him before you started doing this?
The guy I was working for at the time, I always knew him as Ray Gazarian. I was a trainer at a gym in Burbank called World Gym, and I ran the nighttime shift, but I would also train the patrons that came there at night, show them how to use the material or the equipment the right way, give them workout routines, simple stuff. But I'd also work out with them to help motivate them. And I had a lot of clients. Ray would end up being one of my clients. He'd come 3-4 times a week, and we'd work out for an hour together. When you're working out with people, you don't just talk about working out. You talk about sports, life, women, you become friends. He was hiring young people in their late teens, early 20s, college kids mostly, for an amazing job. Travel around the world for free, importing expensive leather goods and getting paid for it. They would get a free trip. They get $800 spending cash. And for me, that sounded like a dream job. I'd never been outside the U.S. I'd only been to a few states, but I'd never been, outside the country. And to be able to go somewhere else on someone else's nickel, that sounds like a dream come true. Yeah. And it was 9 months of being friends with this guy before I decided to make a trip. And I'd seen so many other people at the gym go on these trips, come back with great stories, share their experiences, that I was jealous. I wanted to be part of this. And I ended up going on 3 trips for him. And it was the 3rd trip that wasn't even supposed to be my trip. The trip was supposed to be my one of my older brothers. He wanted to go, but when he found out it was to Pakistan, because no one was going to Pakistan. Originally, these trips were to Turkey.
Were you guys going to go together, you and your brother together, or your brother by himself?
No, him by himself. He was going by himself, but then he backed out when he found out it was to Pakistan. Because he wanted to go to Turkey, I could vouch for Turkey. But because I vouched for my brother, and my boy Ray was like, look, I'm going to lose a lot of money. Your brother's going to be safe. And I'm like, I can't vouch for this trip. But I still felt obligated to go because I didn't want to let him down. I wanted to keep these opportunities open because I thought these were great opportunities. Even though I was working as an actor and a stuntman, I wasn't working full time. It's feast or famine. Sometimes you work all the time. Sometimes you don't work at all. So for me, these trips are like something to do in between work, and the experience in Turkey was always fun because I got to go back through another country, Sweden and whatnot. You're sightseeing for free. For me, it was a great opportunity, and it turned out to be too good to be true. I was being used as a dupe, not a mule. A mule knows they're being used to smuggle something illegal. A dupe has no clue. And like I said, by keeping us in the dark, they don't have to pay us what we're really worth. I mean, only getting paid $800.
You get 10 grand, right, or something. You get like 10 grand if you knew about it.
Supposedly you get more. Supposedly you get a lot more. It depends on how much or what you're bringing back. But yeah, you get more than 800. So I've been back now as of Christmas. I've been back 20 years. And in 20 years, I haven't gotten in trouble. I haven't done anything. I've moved on. I've created a good life for myself. Had I been guilty, I would have been in trouble time and time again. I would have been in trouble for probably the same things or things similar. I would end up suing Ray when I got back for setting me up and having me spend 3 years of my life in jail in Pakistan. I won a civil lawsuit against him. I won a $20.4 million civil suit against him. I never got to collect, but I did, I did win against him. My movie, I haven't, my movie's the documentary. That's what I did. One day maybe a movie will happen. I got my book out, and I know I have a good life now. I do. A lot of bad things happened to me in my life, but the truth is, I had, it was also a good experience. I learned a lot from it, and I learned that you don't ever carry anything for anyone anywhere. If someone even asks you to help them carry a couch, you tell them to go to hell. People will ask me, well, how did you not know you weren't smuggling drugs? And I'll ask them, have you ever helped somebody move, a family member, a friend, a girlfriend, a boyfriend? And they'll be like, yeah. And I go, did you go through all their luggage? No. Well, how do you know you weren't smuggling drugs? It's really that simple. I mean, a murderer will tell everyone he's a thief if it keeps their attention off of him being a murderer. Drug smugglers are shameless, and they will trick anyone to do whatever they can if they're going to make money off of you.
So there was no signs that this guy was involved with anything.
There probably were. I just didn't know how to read them. I was a naive 19-year-old. I was. Yeah. I believed that no one would ever do something like this to somebody else, because this is like the worst thing you could ever do.
In the worst country to do it too.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't Turkey I found out in, because after what happened with Midnight Express and Billy Hayes, at least in Pakistan, once I learned the language there, everything started to get a little easier for me. The first year sucked. I was tortured. I was beaten. Someone put a 5,000 rupee bounty on my head, which means that people were trying to collect $87, and people were trying to collect it. So everyone was trying to kill me. I was the only American in the entire country in prison in Pakistan. But once I learned the language, once I learned how things worked, and I adapted to the situation, the guards started to see me as a human being. I started to see them as a human being. And they all started to work for me. By working for me, I would tell them, look, you need money, right? You're never going to beat it out of me, but I need fruit. I need things to make my time in here go by. I'll give you 100 rupees, which is less than $2 for me, to go and get me some fruit. They would leave their post, go across the street, bring me back a big bag of assorted fruits, bananas, oranges, whatever, and just keep the change. They were happy with that. And once the guards started to realize that, hey, this guy can speak Urdu and he's hiring, all the guards started working for me. And for me, it's a couple bucks, but things I need, like I wanted, books, I wanted food, I wanted chicken, I wanted eventually I got a TV, I got a PlayStation 2, I get VCDs galore. All the guards were working for me. They just want money. And as soon as they realized I was hiring, I didn't deal with things like women, drugs, or alcohol. I dealt with things that make your time go by: cell phones, VCDs, food, books. And so the first year sucked, but the second 2 years in jail was, honestly, I had fun. For me, it was a great experience. I had respect in jail. I became a lawyer while I was in jail. I would help get the other foreigners out of jail while also working on my case. And I was able to get myself out in just under 3 years. So 2 years, 10 months, 15 days is how long I spent in jail. And I was able to do it by successfully arguing my case in the higher courts in a different language.
Can you walk me through the day you got caught, the day that everything happened at the airport? Walk me through how it happened.
Pakistan sucks. Absolutely sucks. If you can avoid Pakistan, you're not missing much in life. The place is awful. Now, I got sick on the first day I got to Pakistan. I got there on a Monday. I got there Monday the 11th. Now, I was supposed to leave on the 15th of February, and I got there on the 11th, and I got sick because I drank some water from a shop that wasn't bottled. And that night it hit me. I had shitting sideways, throwing up. So for 2 days, I just stayed in my hotel in.
They told you not to leave the hotel because that there was a reporter that just got either kidnapped or killed, right?
He had kidnapped. He wasn't killed yet. Daniel Pearl had just been kidnapped, but he hadn't been killed yet. And then obviously with the war drums heading to Afghanistan, people weren't too hot on Western values. They were pretty mad at us. Me being a kid who was sheltered, from the rest of the world, I thought everyone liked America. They wear our clothes, they listen to our music, watch our movies. no, I was an idiot. I didn't know how much we were hated until I actually got to Pakistan. And I got robbed in my first day in Pakistan by a little old lady. Some guys got mad at me because I was flirting with girls, and like I said, I'm an idiot. I was 21 years old, saw some cute girls, didn't speak a lick of English, but a smile is flirting enough, and they loved my attention. But some little brother came out of one of the shops and started like pushing me, a guy who was maybe a third my size. And when I grabbed his wrist, and the whole crowd went crazy on me. And when I went to go look for my backpack, the only one that was nearest was this old lady who wasn't making eye contact, which let me know that she was guilty, because she was just like.
So what was in the backpack that got stolen?
I had a Walkman, but it was a CD Walkman. I was listening to like music as I jogged. Food and everything else. I didn't have my passport or wallet in there, thank goodness.
Thank God.
Kept all that in my pocket, but I had like workout stuff in there. Anyways, I get stolen. I get sick that night, and I stay in the hotel for 2 days. On Thursday, I finally felt good enough to go try to eat something, and I went out and found a little. I bought like closed soda, closed water, and I couldn't wait to get out of Pakistan. It's Valentine's Day, and I found an internet cafe, and I sent out a couple emails, and I couldn't wait. I was counting the seconds to get out of Pakistan. So the day after Valentine's Day, February 15th, Ray's contacts show up to the hotel, and they only have one suitcase for me. Normally it'd be 2 suitcases. That'd be, it'd feel like a couple 100 pounds. My shoulders would be weighed down. They were so heavy. And I went through it, and it was just very light, and it didn't feel right. So I called Ray back in America, and I asked him, I go, hey, is this right? It's just one suitcase. And he's like, oh, because it's the first trip, we're just going to see how it goes. I'm like, are you sure? And instead of like red flags going up there, because at this time, this is my boy. I've known him a couple of years now. And I'm like, I trusted him. But I was happy that I wasn't going to be carrying around all this damn luggage and have to pay extra at the customs and for the weight. Anyways, I get to the airport, and it's early in the morning, and the guys are like dropping me off, and they're like, hey man, next time we'll hang out with you. And I'm humoring them. I'm like, yeah, sure, next time. I know for a fact I'm never going back to Pakistan. Fuck that country. And I see the international line. There's little people. Pakistanis on average are very small. There's tall ones, but there's a real lot of small people. Like 5'6", 5'7", I would guess is like the average height over there. So I tower over everyone there, and I'm thinking, fuck, I got to get in this long ass line. And the customs guys see me at the back of the line, and they wave me to the front. I'm like, all right. And I go to the very front, and I put my stuff down. I put that suitcase with the leather jackets and goods, my bag with my clothing and everything in it. And the guy's not really going through it. He's just kind of like, whatever. And then he closes it up, and I'm about to walk through the metal detectors when someone grabs my arm and says, are you carrying narcotics? And I say to him, check it again. He takes just the suitcase that Ray's people gave me. He didn't touch my bag, though. That confused me. I didn't know why he wasn't touching my bag. Takes the suitcase, empties it all the stuff, all the leather goods onto the floor. And I was like, this is fucking disrespectful. Yeah. So I'm gathering everything else. I'm cleaning it. I'm folding it nicely. And I'm brought across to this office to like this glass office nearby. And all I care about is making my flight. I don't care about that suitcase. And I care about the leather goods that I'm there to pick up. A bunch of guards start filling up the hallway, and the guy comes back in, and he's got another guard behind him, holding what looked to me like 2 newspapers, because they were so thin. I always think it was like 2 newspapers that had plastic around it. It was like a greenish brown. And he goes, what is this? And I go, he's holding it. Like, he should know because he's the one holding it. He goes, this is opium. And the second he said that, 2 + 2 became 4. I knew right away. I was like, mother. So pissed. At no point was I like, no, these guys are being dicks. They're trying to set me up or get money. No, I knew for a fact I was a fucking idiot. Absolutely. And I said something you never want to say when you get arrested. I said, I need to speak to the American embassy. And the only reason I knew to do that was because I'd seen the movie Broke Down Palace with Claire Danes and Kate Beckinsale. Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have known to say that. And that movie had just come out, and I'd seen that. And the guy says, embassy can't help you. We're going to hang you after 5 o'clock. Embassy can't help you. We're going to hang you after 5 o'clock prayer. So I went into panic mode because I believed him. And the guards were trying to like grab me, and I just started throwing guys around and like throwing them around like rag dolls. I was 225, benching 420. I was, football player, stuntman, and I was scared. I mean, if they said that day I was trying to escape, and had I known where to go, then yeah, I guess I would have, but I didn't know where to go. I wasn't trying to escape that day. I was simply trying to find a phone. And I found a phone in a office down the hall that I had to barricade myself in. And I was trying to call my my manager, my acting manager. He always said, if you're in trouble, you call me. And my goal was to call him and tell him to warn the others, because there were so many people making these trips. I thought, if I'm going to die, at least I can warn the others. DEA agents came, not the embassy, but DEA agents came to talk to me, and they didn't believe a word I said. You know, they like I said, possession's 10/10 of the law. They
through the door, though. They're talking to you through the door, right?
But they were talking me through the door, but then eventually they, got me to come out, and, I'm thinking, all right, great. They're here. They're going to, go get Ray. I'm going to be fine. At no point did I think I'm going to jail for 3 years, a little less to be on death row. At no point did I think like that. I'm thinking like, all right, good. They're going to call my mom. They're going to call the other kids who are at the gym making these trips as well. And they're going to see that I'm innocent, and they're going to, get the real drug smuggler. But they didn't believe a word I said. They didn't care. They thought I was a punk. They thought, that I was being arrogant. I was scared. And when I'm scared, I don't, I go into defense mode. And I guess I'm like a cat. I get big because I'm also pissed because this shit shouldn't be happening. I have just filmed the show, the Andy Dick Show, the week before. I'm supposed to work on a bunch of movies coming up here in the next few weeks. I had a great career happening. I had everything to lose and nothing to gain by being a drug smuggler. I am not a drug smuggler. And here I am in Pakistan getting shot at down the hallways, and these assholes here who work for the DEA telling me that I'm nothing but a punk drug smuggler. And I'm like, go f yourselves,
They were shooting? They were like shooting?
Yeah, some dude lit up the hallway when I went into the hallway. He lit up the hallway with everyone else in it too, which is insane. No one got hit. I guess, I didn't see him do it. I heard it loud in that hallway. So maybe just the ceiling or whatnot. But they shot up the door when I barricaded the office. It was scary, man. It's scary. And I would get tortured for information I didn't have. They wanted me to admit the drugs are mine. I never admitted the drugs are mine. All during this time that I was being tortured for information I didn't have, I'm still thinking like, I'm not going to be here that long. There's no way I'm going to be here that long.
What were they doing to you? What kind of stuff were they doing to you?
They got a foot fetish in Pakistan. They do something called physical remand. All right. So physical remand is they go to the courts. They ask the courts for like a couple days to a couple weeks of physical remand. They wanted 10 days with me. This girl from the embassy spoke on my behalf for the judge. She wasn't supposed to, but I'm glad she did. She told him, 10 days is too much. She got him to agree to only do 3 days of physical remand. So I was tortured for 3 days. They beat the bottom of my feet, asked me a bunch of questions. They electrocute me, asked me the same questions. They drown me, asked me the same questions. And then they hang me up on these hooks and just go Rocky on me and ask me the same questions. And then they do the laps. It's just the same thing again and again.
Wow.
And for 3 days, they just asked me these questions. Who gave you these drugs? Where do they live? What are their numbers? Where are they now?
They don't feed you or anything when they're doing this?
No, they don't. They'll feed you. They'll entice you with biscuits and chai if you tell them what they want to know. And here I am thinking like, no, I didn't do this, so I'm not admitting it. Yeah, it sucked what was happening, but it wasn't that. People do get killed during these, but for me, it wasn't that bad. And the reason why it wasn't that bad for me is because the pain that they were inflicting onto me was nothing compared to what I've already experienced as a kid. Go back to when. That's why my documentary is better than the 3 years in Pakistan. When I was 8 years old, I was run over by a school bus. Not knocked over. I was run over by a school bus. The back two rear tires ran me over sideways, smashed my pelvis like a glass jar. I was like a tomato, just popped me. So I couldn't walk for 2 years. I've had 54 surgeries in my lifetime. Most of them were because of the bus accident between 8 and 15 years old. I'm the first person on earth to have their urethra severed and reconnected. And growing up with pain, to this day from the bus accidents, I feel it in my kidneys every time I go urinate. It feels like so much just wringing out my kidneys. And so pain is something I've known my whole life, which is why I'm a stuntman, because I'm used to it. It can't hurt me. So here these guys are torturing me, beating me, drowning me, and for me, I acted like it hurt, but for me, I can take it because it's like
there was no point that you thought they're gonna overdo it.
No. Because, okay, so when they were drowning me, the craziest thing is a few months before I went to Pakistan, I had seen this episode of Fear Factor. And Fear Factor is the first season it was on, and they were having people hold their breath in the water. And the guy who ended up winning $50,000 was this overweight smoking bartender who held his breath for 1 minute, 13 seconds. And I thought, fuck, I'm going to get on that show and I'm going to win that shit. So I started to practice holding my breath, like when I'm in the car at a stoplight, before I'm going to bed, in my shower. And I got it to where I could hold my breath almost 3 minutes. You know, all because of a show I watched the year before.
Wow.
And then here I was in Pakistan being drowned. And I would act like it was tough. But they were pulling me out like after a minute, like a minute 5, minute 10. And I was like, ugh, but the truth was,
Yeah, you're like shaking, right?
yeah, I didn't want them to know how easy it was for me, but it was easy for me. And them beating me was like me being beat by my parents all weekend long. I mean, you could hit me. I mean, yeah, it sucks. It hurts, but pain's nothing new. It's once you get used to pain, you're not that scared. And most people are afraid of getting in a fight because they're afraid of getting hit. Once you get hit a couple of times, you're realizing like it's not that bad.
It's really not.
So I mean, it sucks that I got, you know, it's embarrassing and it's belittling, you know. I don't ever want to be in that situation again. But if anyone was built for prison, it was me, you know. And getting tortured was just part of it. So when I went to the jail, I'm still thinking I'm only going to be here a couple of days, and the only real insight into prison I had was from watching HBO's Oz. Now, if anyone doesn't know who that is, you know, Oz is a great show that HBO did about prison. It was brutal, it was violent, it was disturbing, where all it was everyone each other, you know. And I'm thinking like, that ain't happening to me. I am not going in as a bitch. You got to go in tough. That's the only thing I know about prison. You got to go in tough. You're gonna get in fights, but you got to stand up for yourself. So I'm 21. It's opening kickoff for me. This guy over here is telling me like, boxy. And I'm like, just open the door, because I'm thinking like I got to go in and make a statement. And so that's why I walked into the prison fighting. And it was at the time, it was like maybe 12, 13 number guards who would horseshoe the door. Normally when people go to jail in Pakistan, they send them in groups. So one number guard per one prisoner, or two number guards on one prisoner, you know, they're just slapping them and everyone's like crying and holding their heads or whatnot. I went in like opening kickoff because I don't want them to surround me. So I went through them. So I turned it more into one-on-one while they were trying to surround me. And I kept backing up on the courtyard and just dropping these guys as they kept coming towards me. And the great thing about Pakistanis is they got long beards. They're wearing dresses. They're in sandals. So you grab them by the beards and chuck them on the ground, grab their clothing. You could throw them around. Like, they're not equipped to fight.
Yeah.
So
are you fighting the guards, or are you fighting the inmates?
Number guards are inmates. Number guards are inmates that do the guards' dirty work. They get extra rations, extra privileges. By doing this, they get to like get anything of value off of you. If they like your watch, your jacket, your sandals, your shoes, whatever. So, and then they direct you where to go. It's their way of humbling you. I didn't know this at the time though. All I knew is the guards telling me boxy. I'm like, what the fuck? So, and the prisoners are all dressed up in bright orange gowns, nightgowns. So, you know, they're not guards or whatever. I don't know. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have gone in a little nicer. Would have gone in and been like, hey guys, calm down. Let's go get some food. Let's talk. You want to know about me? Great. But you know, no, I don't speak Urdu. They don't speak English. So an ass whooping's universal. And that day I went I handled it very poorly, but I did great until I got brought to the processing barrack by a little mashakati. A mashakati is a prison worker. Like they're the guys who like run the chalk. They do the messages. They clean up the place. They deliver like packages for people. And a little mashakati, the guy was like 4'10", 4'11", maybe 80 pounds. He's like la 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 la. And I'm like, I know he's not fighting me, but he had authority about him. So he grabbed my wrist to follow him. And so I'm following this guy while everyone else is on the ground still wanting to fight or pissed off. And I go to the processing barrack. Now I've been tortured for 3 days. I haven't eaten. I haven't drank anything. So I'm, starving. I'm dehydrated. I'm tired. And I got put in a processing barrack and I just want to sleep, but I can't sleep because my mind won't shut down. And at the time it was prayer time. Everyone was at the mosque praying. So it was an empty barrack at the time, but it quickly filled up. And I remember opening my eyes because I just felt too many people inside my bubble. And I opened my eyes and sure enough, it's just full, wall to wall people. Everyone's, curious about me. And some guy says something, I don't know what he's saying. And then someone else says, what country? And I'm like, Pakistan, born and raised. Been here my whole life, because I'm a smart ass. And I learned the hard way. You don't say America over at the police lockup when I first got arrested, because everyone tried to fight me there when I told them I was an American. And then the guy holds up a paper and I'm on the front page, like with my arms around the guards or the airport police. He's like, no, this is you. You're an American. I'm like, that doesn't even look like me. And next thing I know, I'm fighting all these assholes. Except I'm losing. This time I'm losing. I'm tired. There's too many of them. It's like gremlins. I feel like the Santa Claus and gremlins. And I back out onto the upper barracks. And there's the barracks, it's 2-floor barracks. And I chuck this dude off my back onto the crowd beneath me. So he goes crowd surfing. And the guards finally say, we need to get involved. And they start baton charging every one of us. Me mostly, they're hitting me with the sticks. I'm, taking the beating, and I get taken to Kasori. Kasori is punishment cell, the hole, except in Kasori, it's the size of a closet. There's a hole in the floor so you can, use for the restroom. There's no running water at all. It stinks, flies, mosquitoes, maggots.
So you still haven't had nothing to drink, nothing to eat?
I think I had tea. In the barracks beforehand. I had tea. Some guy came before it. The little guy gave me tea, who brought me to the barracks. So hey, yeah, but that's it. I still haven't had anything to eat. No, he gave me a biscuit too. Some biscuits. That's it, but nothing else. But I go to Kasori, and I would spend the first 5 days in jail in Kasori. That's just, it's pitch black. The only time you see light is when they bring you out to beat the bottom of your feet. I would spend the first 5 days in there. I would spend a total of 132 days of the entire 3 years that I was there in Kasori for fighting and other things. The longest I spent in Kasori in a row was 8 weeks.
And they would beat your feet every time you were in there?
Well, ideally they would, but there was a week that they didn't beat my feet once. It was because it was a scenario where I was with the hijackers. Me and one of the hijackers for the Pan Am hijacking got a little street corner justice on these that came into the prison and were proud of this 18-year-old girl and her 13-year-old brother. And when they came into the prison, we wanted to teach them a lesson. This is my third year that I was there. So year 3. So Fahad, one of the hijackers, knew we were going to fuck these guys up. So he planned ahead of time and bribed the guards to make sure that when we come to Kasori, it's not as bad. We had candles, we had books, we had food, and they didn't beat us that week because the guards kind of thought it was good what we did to the other guys.
Yeah.
So of the 132 days, 5 days, or the 1 week that I was in there, I didn't get my feet beaten.
Wow. Now tell me about that guard, the real evil one, and tell me about some of the stuff he used to do to people.
Goldleaf. So Goldleaf, that's his nickname. Goldleaf was the name of the cigarette brand in Pakistan. A normal pack of cigarettes usually costs 6-7 rupees. Goldleaf cigarettes cost a lot more. They cost 50 rupees. So they're really. So no, they cost 50. They cost 100 rupees. They're really expensive, higher brand cigarette. And Goldleaf was famous for having prisoners beat until they either agreed to buy on Goldleaf cigarettes or just couldn't afford to. So he'd have you beat until you either agreed to buy on Goldleaf cigarettes to bribe him. He wanted everyone just to bribe him with these cigarettes. But he'd also been known to have beaten, have not himself, because he would have the number guards, who are the prisoners doing the guards' dirty work, do the work for him. Goldleaf was a very small, skinny old man, but he was fucking ruthless. And he would have prisoners beat unconscious or to death. I watched him beat this man. I personally watched him beat a man, not himself, but have a man beat to death. But he was beat unconscious first, and they didn't know he was dead. And then he urinated on his unconscious body. And then later on, it was when the guy was brought to the hospital, found out the next day that he died. So Goldleaf was just a monster of a prison guard. And it was a running joke that, that he would always just make people's lives miserable for Goldleaf cigarettes. He would just randomly search you. You could have nothing on you, but he would have a piece of hashish between his fingers and go in your pockets and be like, "Hey, what's this?" And they're like, you motherfucker, dude, that's you. He goes, ah, and then you have you beat, taken to Kasori, and then you have to figure out a way to get him gold leaf cigarettes, and so he'll take you out of Kasori. He was just a fucking piece of shit.
Did he ever fuck with you before the situation happened?
Like, not to this point. Like, this was bad. Like, he'd fuck with me. He'd search me and find money on me and just take it. But, you always have to leave breadcrumbs on you, too. Like, I'd purposely leave 10, 20 rupees in my pocket in case that happened, just so a guard would, whatever. Or if I went into a different part of the prison, I'd give him like 20 rupees and go about my business and just leave him alone. Yeah. But this particular week, he was assigned to my part of the prison. I was in 2-cell. Because it's the biggest prison in all of Pakistan, and the guards have to bribe or to be put in different parts. And this was the first and only week he was ever assigned to my cell. When I was dealing with these really bad earaches, and when I would have these earaches, I would just work out. That's all I could do is work out until I was just exhausted because I was in so much pain from these fucking earaches in my head. And he would just put his hands through the bars and just kind of like watch me and talk all this shit. And I'm ignoring him because the guards would come by and watch me working out or see my cells, see my books, and all this contraband and want money from me. They saw me as an American actor, so they all thought I was a multi-millionaire, and they would always come fuck with me. But I ignored him as much as possible. He was talking all this shit. It was during the time of we're in Iraq. We're during the Iraq War. I know that because Bush had the war drums going for Iraq, and he was saying how Americans all stick their nose in everywhere where they don't belong, called us all a bunch of dogs, and then he wanted 500 rupees from me. This is what you thought he was a judge.
Oh, yeah. 500.
He was just a piece of guard. He wants 500 rupees from me. Now, 500 rupees for me is it's less than $10. What do I care? But I was in so much pain. I'm listening to this asshole who I've seen urinate on people and have beaten. I know he's a piece of shit, so I have no respect for him. He's over here calling us all dogs, and he's telling me to give him 500 rupees. Sad thing is, I wish I'd known then what I knew now. I would have just given it to him, right? But I wasn't. It was a perfect storm of bullshit. Like, I just wanted to die, but I didn't want to die by my own hands. So I was kind of like on a mission in a sense. Yeah. And I decided to I'm gonna let this guy do it. And I was like, hey, we may all be dogs, but you're a little bitch. And I did that in Urdu. And he didn't like that. And this guy's like $1.15, soaking wet. Opens. He looks like he's probably in his 50s, but he looks like he's like 78. Like, people age very harshly in Pakistan. So he opens the cell door, comes in to hit me with his baton, and I catch it. And I just start punching him with his own hand. And I just lost it. And I just start f***ing this dude up. Like, I lost control of myself. And he's screaming, and 2 other guards ran into the cell. I'm f***ing these dudes up. And then one of them got away to go get help, clearly. And I'm like, oh, shit. Like, I knew I f***ed up bad. So I screw it. At this point, I'm like, f*** it, let's go. Let's do it. And I grabbed both these guys out of my cell, and I locked the outer door. And then I go back in my room to put on all my sweaters that I have, my jacket that I still have.
Cushion it, right? Cushion it a little bit.
Yep. I put on a beanie that I had. I was putting tissue paper, the toilet paper in my gums. And I remember thinking this. I was like, hey, God, if you can get me out of this right now, that'd be really cool. But if not, just give me the strength to take as many of these motherfuckers out with me as you can. And I was so thankful that it was happening to me and not my brother or someone else that I had encouraged this trip to. So I was kind of in a weird way at peace at that moment because I knew at least it was going to end soon, or at least I hoped it was going to end soon, but I was going to make them earn it, So once again, opening kickoff, I'm like, let's do this. And when these guys came back in full force, no one wanted to come into the cell. Like, they were telling me to come outside. I'm like, hell no. And the second, I held them out of my room. The second anyone came into my front door, I was using the sides of the cell to just bomb on them, push them back out in the cell. They were falling on top of each other. I put I had a locker in my room that I barricaded the door with. They threw tear gas in. I threw it back out in them. I had one of the guards in my cell as a hostage for a little bit. I was like threatening to. I broke a couple of his fingers, and that ended up backfiring bad on me because finally, I held him out for a long time, and by a long time, long enough to get the attention of the superintendent. Everyone, the whole outer part of my cell was just full of guards. And when they finally got in there, I was just dead tired. I was tired. I couldn't do anything. I was I was dead weight. And they pulled me out. Everyone's just taking shots on me. They held out my right hand. They broke all my fingers one by one. And they're
just snapping them.
Yeah, but that's because I snapped a couple of the other guards' fingers, so they're payback. And Then they started on my left hand with my thumb. And then all of a sudden I crumpled to the, like they finally let go of me. I crumpled to the ground, and I'm thinking, like the whole time I was thinking, like, fucking let it end already, because it was just nonstop, and it's taking forever. And I hear the superintendent's voice demanding what's going on, and then I hear Goldleaf telling them that they found drugs on me, that I attacked him, and it's all in Urdu. And I'm telling him, no, he's lying. He didn't find any drugs on me. He wanted 500 rupees from me. I told him to go to hell. Superintendent comes over, tells him to like pick me up. So everyone picks me up, but he tells them like, relax. My hands, fingers are backwards. I'm holding my hand. My left eye is fucking shut. Everything on me hurts. And he's like, you can speak Urdu? I was like, yes. And he said, what happened? I told him. I said, these guards come into my room at night when I'm asleep to beat me for money. I can't afford to buy food. Goldleaf wanted 500 rupees. I told him to go to hell. And I told him I'm starving. I said I have no choice but to fight the guards because they won't leave me alone. And otherwise, I can't afford to buy food for myself. And he says to me, he goes, I believe you. Turns around and fires Goldleaf right on the spot.
And that's crazy, right?
Well, so then he asked me who else has messed with me. And I pulled 6 more guards out of the crowd that day by their name tags, because I've been teaching myself how to read and write Urdu. And that day, 7 guards got fired because of my word. But the one that got fired that mattered was Goldleaf. And literally the next day, like when I was in the hospital, when I woke up all bandaged up, there were like cards and sweet dishes and chicken and Pepsi, because the prison heard what I had done. And they like were grateful because I got rid of a monster for everyone. This dude made everyone's life suck in jail by far. And then after that, the guards, you know, took it way easier on me. And then they were asking me like, look, what do you want to, you know, they started to see me as a human being. I started to see them as a human being. And
yeah,
then they started to work for me. And that was the turning point, was getting rid of Goldleaf. That was the turning point for me in jail. Like after that, it was smooth sailing. Like I had never had any problems, any real problems anyways after that.
You missed this part, but how did you first get money in the prison?
Well, at first it used to be from the embassy would come and bring me like 3,000 rupees a month, which was $50 at the beginning before I was sentenced. And then that ended up stopping because the Pakistani interpreter that worked for the embassy ended up being a little corrupt scumbag too. And so instead of coming and giving me my money every month, he was just saying he brought it to me when he didn't, and leaving and doing whatever. So I had to start smuggling in my money a different way through a religious teacher. Religious teachers are like priests or rabbis. They have a lot of respect, and they don't get searched when they go in and out of the prison. So religious teachers, honestly, they're smuggling everything in Pakistan. They're the ones smuggling weapons, drugs, guns, money. And the one that was working for me was working for who knows how many others. But the deal I had with him was that if he went and got $400 from me a month that my mom was sending, which is 24,000 rupees, I'd give him 500 rupees just to go stand in line and bring it. That's an insane amount of money. 500.
What do you get? Western Union?
Yeah.
Coordinate it.
And then he would bring me in 23,500 rupees. So he's getting a good deal. And if he were, I mean, if he were to ever have stolen that, it would have fucked him too, because I would have just let everyone else know that he was also working for, and that would screw all his consistent income, because everyone's corrupt in Pakistan by far.
Yeah.
But so he was bringing me in 24,000 rupees, when keeping 500, and I was able to use that money to buy cell phones, VCDs, you know, anything. And by doing that, I was able to sell. Like I was selling all the cell phones in jail. So I would buy I'd buy a cell phone for it cost me 10,000 rupees to get a cell phone inside, and buying it.
And how much is that? How much is that? 10,000.
Like $160.
Wow.
So I'm saying $160 to get a cell phone inside with like 5 minutes on it. It's always up to everyone else to get it, but I get them started and sell them the cell phone. But that's how much it cost me to pay the guards to take that chance and get it in for me. And then I would turn around and sell those cell phones for, it varied depending on who it was, usually 15,000 rupees to 20,000 rupees. So I'm making money now selling these cell phones all throughout the prison. I had the first cell phone in jail. We didn't know it was going to work, but I took the gamble that it would work, and it did. And then when it did work, I would rent it out to everyone else. So I had a good hustle there. And then when the guards were all making so much money working for me, they would give me a heads up if there was going to be a search, a Talashi, because they're the ones bringing shit in. So they didn't want me to get in trouble, because, you know, but also if they told me there was going to be a search, I'd pay them. I'd hook them up. And they knew they were also getting paid to, you know, for the good information.
What would they do? Hold the phone for you while they did the search and then bring it back?
No. Me hiding the phone was on me. All right. So I had lots of ways to hide the phone. Like I ended up cutting a hole in a Quran and putting it in there. Something that's a big no-no. But that, if they found out about that, I would have been hung in prison for sure. But I also know they don't fuck with the Quran there. So if one person went to go and did that, the crazy thing is like that would be kind of blasphemy, mismanaging the Quran. So he would be putting himself at jeopardy by exposing me for doing what I did to the Quran, so that I could hide the cell phone.
Wow.
So it was a gamble that paid off.
So your whole time there, was there any other Americans that came through?
Not Americans. There were dual nationality. There was a Thai woman who was born on an American air base. So she had an American passport, but she had a Thai passport and she lived in Thailand. And so when she came to the prison, she spoke pretty good English. She was in her 60s. She was just devastated. And by this time, I'd already figured out how the prison works and everything. So when the embassy came to see her, they would see me too, just to like knock two birds out with one stone. And she was like crying and everything. And I'm like coming in with tank top and some suntan lotion on my nose. And the embassy gave her like this paper, like, here's a lawyer. You just got to pick a lawyer. I'm like, hold on, let me see that. And I grabbed the paper. I'm like, this guy's a dick. This guy's a dick. This guy sucks. This dude's dead. Like the information the embassy was giving them, they didn't even know. And then they told me to go wait in the other room because they said I was meddling. And this little Asian lady was like, tell me what to do. And I gave her the name and number of a lawyer that I wanted to see myself for my higher case. I said, you call this lawyer. When he gets here, you tell him that you want me to come up to the front too, okay? And by helping her out, I helped me out because I needed to see this other lawyer. I'd already been sentenced at this time. And when you're sentenced once in jail, and the embassy doesn't need to help you at all anymore. Once you're sentenced, they don't help out with your appeals or anything.
What was your sentence?
My sentence originally was 7 years, 3 months. It is, yeah. But I never just sat there and been like, oh man, poor me. No, I did something every day when I was in jail. I was learning the language. I was working towards getting myself out of prison. I was working on other people's cases. I was learning the law. I became a lawyer in Pakistan by taking correspondence courses through the AIOU, the Allama Iqbal Open University. I was running poker games. All the guards were working for me. I was organizing soccer matches against the guards. I was a teacher. I was teaching people how to read and write their own language. I was organizing dinner parties for the future prime minister, the future president of Pakistan. All the superintendents would come to my cell and have dinner parties and hang out. So I was entertainment and I was keeping the place moving. And if you needed something in jail, you came to me for it. I became Red from Shawshank Redemption. So I was the guy who I offered protection. I had all the guards working for me. If someone was coming in, they're getting messed with too hard, I tell the guards, all right, man, go easy on the guy here. What do you need? And I'd keep the guards occupied with other things so they didn't do the attention on these guys. I had a garden. I worked on a garden. I have quite a green thumb. I grew a lawn. I made the place look nice. I made it a home for me. I brought in gas stoves from my cell, and because of that, everyone else in my cell block was able to link up to their own stoves inside. And because I actually went to court and got a court order that I'm allowed to cook my own food in my own cell, there's nothing the guards could do about it. I got a swamp cooler brought in. I even had a well brought into our cell block so that we would have running water 24/7 rather than just 2 hours a day when they turned on the generators.
Wow.
I had all the cell blocks behind fixed because all the pipes behind the toilets had all rusted, and it was just nasty because all the shit and fecal matter and was just shooting out the back, and it was just a harvesting ground for maggots and flies and millions of flies. So I brought in outside plumbers to fix all that up. And I turned my cell block into like just a nice little area. It gave me something to do. I made the most of my time there. I learned, like I said, I learned languages. I had a bunch of friendships there. And, sometimes I miss prison.
So while you're there, are there people getting executed?
Yeah. Then death rows. There's death row there. People are getting hung all the time. When that would happen, they would lock up the rest of the prison, just as kind of like a, I don't know. I don't know if it was honorary or it's just the way it was, but we would get locked up, and they would normally hang people early in the morning or late in the evening. One of my best friends got hung while I was there, and he didn't tell me he was getting hung. I saw him the day before he got hung. I had a meal with him. He had it prepared so that I'd enjoy it, not him. I wasn't a big spice guy. He was, and nothing was spicy when we ate it together. And we played poker all night and just shot the shit. We were boys, and then I found out the next morning that he got hung.
What was he there for?
His name was Murad. He was there for killing 11 of his wife's family members.
Wow.
Well, in Pakistan, when people get married, it's usually arranged marriages, you know. And him and his wife got married without their parents' consent or their family's consent. Basically, a real life Romeo and Juliet. So while they were in hiding, both their families were feuding and fighting and killing each other. And what brought them out? I mean, it was bad. Both sides were just wrecking each other. What brought him out of hiding was his mother and sister were both kidnapped, gang raped, and murdered by having their breasts cut off. So he set up a meeting. He said, "Look, we got to figure this out." He set up a meeting and he ambushed his wife's family members, killing 11 of them. And he did basically what I think any man would have done in his situation. It's a terrible scenario. But
it's crazy.
In jail, he was my boy. You know, he taught me how to play poker. He taught me a lot of Urdu, and he was a good man to me. And when he shared his last meal with me and had it prepared so that I'd enjoy it, not him, it was to this day the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So now, how does it transpire that you're about to be released? And do you know?
So it was December of 2024, and I finally got my day in court. And
It was 2004, right?
Yes, sorry,
2004.
I was thinking I was 24 years old. That's what I was thinking. All right, so that was 2004. Thank you. And I went to court, and it was going to court, and I had the lawyer that I gave to the Asian lady was there representing me, even though he had pushed all the paperwork across that I gave him to do. Even though I was representing myself, he was there to make sure that everything was in order.
The co-counsel type, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told the judges, because by this time I had another lawyer that my mom had gotten who withdrew my appeal, costing me my one chance in high court without my permission, because he wanted God, was it 60? He wanted 60,000. The number, I don't know. It's 20 years. He wanted 60,000 rupees for my $60,000 to represent my case, and this is a $400 case for anyone else. Sorry, no, a $400 case for anyone else. It's 24,000 rupees. And when he withdrew my appeal, that cost me my one chance in high court. I was able to get another hearing in high court, but it took forever. It took literally like a year, almost a year and a half, to get heard in the high court, because I had to clean up this asshole's mess who withdrew my appeal. And when I went to the court, the judges, this asshole flew in from Lahore to justify why he withdrew my appeal. I guess the judges wanted to hear from him. And I said, look, I'm a visitor in your country. I never gave this man permission to withdraw my appeal. He was extorting money out of my family, trying to extort money out of me. He saw only an opportunity to get rich. And when I fired him, he withdrew my appeal. I never gave him permission to do that. And then judges were asking him, like, how much were you asking for? And he said 60,000, like rupees is like dollars. And then the judges were laughing. Like it was pretty comical, but it was also my life that this was happening to. And here's the judges up there. I mean, it was a funny scenario. It's funny to laugh at now, but man, it was like, this is my life. And here's these guys laughing because they were like, what were you trying to do? Retire? And then the other judge is like, his whole family was trying to retire. So they gave me another shot at court. Sorry, that was the appeal date. That's when the appeal date was, which was the year before. And when I beat that guy to prove that I never gave him permission to withdraw my appeal, what they did was they took me and put me back on the bottom of the pile. And then that's how it works. They take it off the top of the pile of all the court cases. So what it meant was that I was going to get a second chance at high court. And then when I did get my second chance at high court, it was like it was like a year and 4 months later, I want to say. Maybe a year and a half. I'd have to go back and look at my notes. When I went to court once again with my guy, I used all the lower court points against them because what happened when I was when arrested, they had taken everything that was in my bag. I had a cell phone, I had my wallet, I had a portable DVD player. and they took everything out of my my luggage and put it in the luggage that I was hired to bring back with all the leather goods. So in their eyes, they were thinking like, "Oh, look, it's his," because all that stuff is clearly his. And I was able to use those points against them. I never lied in the high court at all. I said this suitcase was never mine. It was never mine. I said my stuff that was in that suitcase was never in that suitcase. That was all in my own bag. They put it in there, so it made them look like jerks. I'm like, why would I put a portable DVD player in a suitcase when the whole point of having a portable DVD player is to make a long flight more enjoyable? This is before they put all the TVs on the back of the headrest.
Yeah.
I said, what if, and why would I put my cell phone in there? What if somebody calls me? I can't answer it because it's in that suitcase. Also, they put my ID from my wallet and my passport in that suitcase. Well, that suitcase can't go in a plane. It's got to go underneath the plane. How would it be able to go through any kind of normal detections? I couldn't because my ID's in there. So
they wanted to kind of make it yours.
Yeah. And by doing that, it worked against them and worked in my favor because I was able to point all that out. And so when the guards said, not the guards, the judges said, we believe you're innocent, but it makes us look bad if we say we kept an American in jail for 3 years for a crime he didn't commit. I was like, fuck, I was devastated because I was like, well, what does that mean? They said, we have to think about this. So I go back to prison for, it was about a week. And I knew they were waiting to make their decision based on everything we had done. I felt that, you know, I felt I made a good argument, and they were leaning towards, you know, what would be fair in their wise of being fair, because I knew they weren't just going to outright let me out. They wanted to make something so that they could save face. Well, on the 23rd of December, a guard comes to my cell. It was right after lockup, and he says, "Hey, they made a decision." Oh, it wasn't 23rd of December. Sorry, it was a week before. It was a week before. The guard comes to my cell and says, the embassy's here and they've made a decision. So I was like, shit. I'm thinking like, well, if they hold it up, great. I can still like, if I was told that, sorry, they make it like they're going to make me stay in jail for the 7 years, 3 months, then it would suck. But I knew that deep down I could do it. You know, I'd already prepared myself mentally to just be willing to handle it the whole time.
4 years left, right?
Well, yeah. And then, but also there was also the slight chance that they could add on to my sentence. They can give me life or death, you know. But I didn't feel like they were going that route because the judge seemed very sympathetic towards me, and I was very respectful to them. Well, when I was bringing up to the front of the prison, like one of the superintendents that was there with all the number guards was like, "What's going on?" I go, "Oh, my embassy's here." He's like, "Today's the decision." I'm like, yeah. And he started praying for me, and so did the number guards. And then as I was walking up the front, all the Meshakites and other prisoners were there, knew my decision because it was big in the newspaper that morning. So everyone was praying for me to go home. It was kind of crazy because 3 years prior, when I got in there, I came in swinging and everyone hated me. But by this time, I had earned such respect that people were praying for me to go home. And then when I go to the front of the prison, come around the corner to go towards the superintendent's office, because that's usually where I would meet with the embassy. The doctor of the prison, who I'd become friends with at this time, comes running around the corner, tears in his eyes, like, "You're going home." And I was like, "Fuck, yes, thank you." And just because you get declared that you're going to go home, you're not going to leave the jail that day because you're a foreigner. They have to get you a foreign visa, and then you got to get you a plane ticket and make sure that you have both of those ready so that they can just take you to the airport and you can go. So I would be in jail for another week while I was figuring out how to, you know, pay the right super. You still have to bribe your way out of the prison, and you still have to get the visa. So the embassy was going to work on getting my visa and my plane ticket, but I had to work on, you know, selling everything I had and paying the right superintendents to let me go. Because if I don't bribe the right guys to get out of jail, they would be like, "Oh, he was fighting, we had to keep him," you know, punishment, and they could keep me in there indefinitely. So there's a game you have to play to actually get out of prison. But I would end up staying there another week, and then the embassy came and got me, and I paid off the right superintendents, and I got out on the 23rd, but I left Pakistan the morning of Christmas. And because Pakistan's 24 hours ahead, I landed. America was technically Christmas Eve, and then I landed in O'Hare Airport on Christmas Day, Christmas evening. And I was supposed to continue on to LAX, but I was the only white guy on the plane, so they strip searched me and went through all my stuff and delayed me from going on with my to my LA flight. Unfortunately for me, so I wouldn't get to LA for another day until the 26th. But the 25th on 2004 was a really bad day for the world in general. Like 350,000 people died because of the Southeast Asia tsunami.
Yeah.
And because of that, like, I went from, you know, like I had a, like if I had gotten home on Christmas Day, it would have been kind of cool, and everyone would have been there. But because all the attention was now on the Southeast Asia tsunami, it wasn't as big a deal of me getting home the day after Christmas.
So it wasn't in the news. They weren't talking about it.
It was, but not as big as it would have been.
Yeah.
Like they wanted me on Good Morning America, and I had all these interviews like lined up. And then when the Southeast Asia tsunami hit, all those interviews quickly dried up because everyone was focusing on that tragedy and disaster. Yeah.
So how's it been since you've been out?
It's been great, man. I live in Georgia now. I'm married. You know, my wife hates me. You know, normal stuff, normal marriage stuff. She loves me too. Is the way it is. I have 10 dogs.
10
yeah.
dogs.
Yeah, I volunteer at an animal shelter, and I get a lot of foster fails, and I adopt the animals that no one wants, the seniors.
Name any of them Gold Leaf?
Yeah, yeah, wouldn't be a bad name actually.
Right.
But I've had to put down 6 animals in the last 2 years. It's it sucks because that's the kind of animals I get. But that's the best thing about animals is no matter how rough life gets, they're always there for you. They're always wagging their tail, and they just want that little bit of attention from you. So I've never had a bad day volunteering at the shelter, and you know I got all kinds of issues. I got a lot of PTSD I deal with, but my animals keep me in check. I'm still doing stunts. I'm still acting. I'm producing. I wrote my book. I produced my own documentary to tell the story in my way. One day I will tell my story in a theatrical form or even like a limited series. That's when I got like maybe $3 or $5 million burning a hole in my pocket. I'll go to Morocco and film it. You know,
that would be cool to have like a play.
Were
you doing stunts, throwing people around, right? That would be awesome, man.
It'd be a lot of energy.
It would.
No, life's good, man. I got a good life. I play poker for a living. I don't have to. Honestly, I could retire. I don't have to work if I don't want to, but I do it because I love it. I love being on set. I double Billy Zane. I double David Koechner. I worked on all 5 seasons of Mayans. Worked on Sons of Anarchy. And
yeah, I remember you from the show.
I fill in wherever I can. I just had an episode of the latest episode of Hawaii with Hawaii High Surf come out, and I'm all throughout. It's kind of cool. And doing a charity event at the shelter on the 26th of this month up here in Meriwether County. It's a non-kill shelter. That's why I love working with them. And we're trying to raise money to build another building so that it can stay a non-kill shelter. And you know, I travel for work, and I just play poker, hang out with my dogs, and just enjoy life while I can. You know.
See, you have such a unique story because you weren't involved with the drug dealing, like you were saying. It's different when they're interviewing people who wanted to do it, you know?
Yeah. It's, you know, to go through something like I did, the worst part about it was at the beginning was being innocent and having to go through it, you know, because if you're guilty, at least you can be like, well, I deserve this, you know, and it's easier to swallow. And then for years, people thought I was just a liar, a drugs dealer, drug smuggler. But then clearly I wasn't, because I never went back to getting in trouble. If you're people who are bad people go back to being bad people, that's just the way it is. I was naive. I was trusting. I got screwed over by a very good friend. I learned the hard way that you really can't trust people. And so I have friends, but I keep them at, you know, arm's length. I don't trust anymore. So I say no a lot. I would never help anyone, you know, carry anything ever again. That's for sure. You know, you just life can suck sometimes, but it's also, you know, it's amazing. Like the nicest thing that someone has ever done for me was buy a man on death row, sharing his last meal with me. You know, I never thought something like that would happen. You know, you'd be amazed at where you can find kindness. And then bad situations are always going to happen in life, but life's not meant to get easier. We're meant to get stronger. We're meant to adapt. And we're meant to, you know, get through anything. I tell everyone we're built to sustain and to adapt. I mean, a small example is jumping into a very cold pool. You swim around for a couple seconds, you're freezing, but then all of a sudden the water becomes nice and you get used to it. And that's just in a couple seconds. Look how quick you adapted to that. You know, no one wants to ever go through a bad situation like I did, but everyone has it in them to adjust and get through it in flying colors. And every morning I had the decision whether or not I wanted to be in a good mood or a bad mood, and I always chose to be in a good mood. I'd wake up in a good mood, and I try to make the best of the day. I try to make flashcards, learn more languages, talk to people, exercise. I always had a mission, and I always made the most of it. I didn't just sit in a corner and feel sorry for myself. I had days like that, but I got through them. And
Yeah.
I tried to, I turned a negative into a positive. And like I said, sometimes I miss prison.
U.S. prison's a lot different than Pakistan, I believe.
Yeah, I got some people in jail nowadays, and honestly, I mean, I'm sure it sucks, but at least people speak English. At least they got a shower. At least they get food. I hear they even get tablets so they can watch movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the bullying and all that bullshit's there too. You gotta fight. But if you go looking for trouble, you're gonna find it. The people who are getting abused or everything are people who like owe people money, or they're drug addicts, or they're just scumbags in general. But I think that if I was in jail today, I'd do just fine. I'd go get a degree. I'd play poker with the guards. I'd exercise, learn a couple languages.
Nah, you can't play with the guards, man. Once you start associating with the guards, the inmates think that you're with the guards, and that's not a good thing to do.
I don't know. I'm a firm believer that you win a lot more bees with honey.
Yeah. I mean, pay them off. That's a.
I had all the guards working for me in jail in Pakistan, that it made everyone's life a lot easier around me. So
Yeah. So where can people find your book? Want to tell them the name of your book?
So the book you can only buy the book in hard copy or paperback on Amazon. It's called 3 Years in Pakistan. You see my beautiful mug on the back there. But the audiobook, I did the audiobook myself, is out on Audible. It's on almost every single platform. All you have to do is type up my name, Erik with a K, Audé, Aude, audiobook, and then whatever platform you have. I mean, if you got free tokens or whatever else, you can listen to it. And if you end up liking it, by all means, put a review. It helps. And the great thing about my story is, it's not just a bad, depressing story. It's a story that I think everyone can resonate from, because had I known a story like this back in the day, I think I would have been wise enough to realize what it was I was being used to do, and been, spry enough to walk away. Had I known that this stuff actually happened, and it happens all the time, I would have seen it for what it was, and I wouldn't have had to go through so much heartache and pain and loss of losing a couple years of my life.
You could have lost your whole life. You could have lost your life.
Yeah, I could have, and I hope that my story can help prevent others from having to go through the same thing.
Well, I wish you nothing but success in the future. I look forward to seeing where your journey takes you. Well, I'll have you back on. We'll do a live, and people can ask you questions. Can people get signed copies of your book?
Yeah, absolutely. I sell the hard copies for $30, and the reason is because of shipping. Shipping's like $7.70, and the paperbacks for $22. If you hit me up on 30. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't hate me, dude. This is how many. I don't sell that many books. The hard copies are $38, and the paperbacks are $30, because on Amazon they're $22 and $28. So if you hit me up on Instagram or Facebook or even TikTok, just you cash at me or Zelle or whatever, and give me your address, and I'll send them out. I've only sold maybe like 700 books, but it's all.
We're gonna get the book sales rolling, man.
I hope so. My friend Billy Zane, who I double, he actually has the rights to my story. He wants to turn it into a movie or one day. We'll see. I'm not holding my breath or anything, but if it happens, that would be amazing.
Yeah, definitely would. Well, I wish you nothing but success, and I look forward to seeing where your life goes, man.
I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm producing a couple little projects now, and I just worked on a Tyler Perry show on Monday. I have a big airbag in the back. I don't know if you can see that tower back there. That's my little iPhone tower.
Oh, you're jumping off that?
Yeah. I'll put an airbag out, and then my stunt people will come over and jump off of it. But I'm going to back to LA on the end of the month, because I'm producing a horror movie with the wedding singer director is a good buddy of mine. So we're producing a movie. I'm stunt coordinating it. And then I go to North Carolina to film a TV show called Blue Ridge. I'm playing a character doing stunts on it. And and then working on a Casey Affleck movie. It's funny you said Ben Affleck that you worked on, but I'm working with
Casey was there. Casey Affleck.
Yeah.
And Matt Damon. Yeah.
Oh, that was the one where they were both like
bank robbers.
They
were robbing.
An art heist with the mayor.
Yeah,
right?
they were at the Boston City Hall. They pushed this big safe out of the building onto his pickup truck, and it smashed the pickup truck. It's like $1 million budget.
Yeah,
it was like $100 million budget or something. It was
bigger
insane.
I watched that movie. Yeah, I did. I'm looking forward to working with him. Working on a movie called American Junkie about Kurt Cobain's drug dealer, and he's playing Kurt Cobain's drug dealer. And
man,
I'm stunt coordinating that, so that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and if I get funding for these films, I'll definitely hit you up.
Yeah, if you need stunt coordinating, man, you hit me up. I'm all
100%.
about helping out wherever I can and bring a lot to the table. I'm working on a really good movie right now called Hope's Wish. That it's about it's whenever you think you're having a bad day. It's a true story about a 12-year-old girl who had a incurable form of bone cancer. And when the Make-A-Wish people came to her and asked her what her wish was, she says, "How does that work? Does every kid's wish come true?" They said, "No, because it's up to the family and friends to actually raise money. And a lot of the kids' family and friends don't raise it in time or don't raise it at all." And she says, "How many kids are on the Make-A-Wish list?" And she was in North Carolina. They said, "Out here, 155. She says, "Well, then that's easy. My wish is for all their wishes to come true." Wow. At 12 years old, this is this 12-year-old girl's wish. And the whole city of Charlotte comes together to make this girl's wish come true. And the NFL or the Carolina Panthers get involved. Just like the homeless person's like, "This is for Hope." The maid who was going on the bus to go see her own kid who was going through the same thing started to raise money. And 2 weeks after she died, the whole city had successfully come together and made her wish come true. So
that's awesome. That's incredible.
Yeah,
it really is.
I feel like if I can tell that story, then I can leave a little bit of good on this world. I have the director of Soul Surfer attached. He's a good buddy of mine, Sean McNamara. He's going to direct it. My friends who directed, who wrote the book or the script for the movie, Same Kind of Different as Me, which is another faith-based movie. They're on board to write the script for me. And we have a producer named Aaron Benward on board who produces a show called God Family Football. So I'm actually quarterbacking this whole thing, and I'm making a faith-based movie about this little girl's story. And I think that if I could do that, then that's my way to leave a little good on this world.
That's awesome, man. If you like this show, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. And if you don't like this show, too bad, start your own podcast. Peace.